They get the sinking feeling that they're going to be alone forever? All but resigned to that fact. I'm going to get a cat, a dog and maybe a rabbit to live happily ever after with them. My password used to be Forever Alan 3. You'll find someone. Just keep meeting people, use dating sites, and don't give up. Yes, but when thinking about changing that, I realize I don't want to. Kinda got comfortable with total control over my own finances and time and don't want it to change. Yep. It sunk in about 15 years ago and anchored itself in. They feel excluded/isolated at work? You worry too much. Relax, let them come to you. Do you ever invite people out or for lunch? It's possible a lot feel the same as you. You should invite someone for lunch sometime next week. Put yourself out there. Yes, especially when we only come into the office once every 2 weeks because it's mandated, and more often than not, our team meeting that day gets cancelled. There is no real team building. When does life start to go downhill? When you start comparing your day-to-day life to what friends on social media post. I've had friends talk about how great my life is when they only see 5% of it on Instagram when we are on a vacation or some other adventure. My wife and I are homebodies who spend 95% of our time with our son and dogs at the house playing board games or working on an endless amount of home projects. It feels like it comes in waves with different peaks. 21 was a peak, 24-25 was a peak, and then late 20s felt like an awkward downhill curve of not quite man but aging fast. 30 feels like a new peak. Physical fitness is still prime but noticing partying hitting me harder and signs of aging, odd gray hair, some hair loss, older looking skin. I guess the next peak is 40s dad peak and then it's all downhill from there. If you make effort it's all good until your health fails, which comes at you randomly. If you work enough when you're young, getting old doesn't suck. Grandchildren, family, and lunches with friends. Be the old guy running around with his buddies doing toys for tots drives and going to car shows. Enjoy the ride until the end. When you let it. Pro tip, if you don't really want to have kids, don't let anyone talk or coerce you into it. Doesn't matter how hot she is or how much you love her. If you don't want kids and have them anyway, it will ruin your life up to and including your relationship and life with your wife. 53 and having my best life ever. Even 5 years ago, I would have never guessed I could even feel this good in any dimension of my life, let alone nearly all of them. My work is better and more rewarding, with less effort, than I ever thought possible. My relationships are deeper and more fulfilling than ever. My life is off the charts, even compared to my 20s. Finding the right partner for you is everything. I'm financially strong, and will pay off my mortgage in a couple of years or less. Physically, I'm still quite fit, and I think I look better than I ever have. Late bloomer energy. Being born into a wealthy family of the dominant race and gender in one of the richest countries of the world is an all-downhill way of life. If you miss this opportunity, then maybe try being born handsome instead and marry into a wealthy family. If you miss that mark, then you might try winning the lottery or making a once-in-a-lifetime invention like Amazon or Facebook. Still here? Oh boy, well hopefully you have a couple of these completely luck-based qualities going for you because life is always going to be uphill. What gives you hope that things will get better? Knowing that nothing lasts forever. Nothing, I just get bored of feeling down. Tomorrow is a new day. Things carry over, sure, but it's a new start to a day. Do some self-care, get some sleep, water, coffee, and rest, and be ready to take it on. I remind myself that progress isn't always linear, but the sun will always come up the next day. So long as we are still here, we can continue to strive toward a better tomorrow. My friends. Learning to change my outlook on life. I just keep going and am in a non-awesome situation that is also getting better. It's confusing, but hope gives me hope. There's always tomorrow. Not matter how hard today was, I lived through it. There were so many days that have been harder than this day, and I survived them and got to better days. I've had highs as intense as my lows, and this low is just going to allow me to appreciate the next high even more. I'm thankful for the lesson and reflection my lows are able to bring to me, and tomorrow just means I survived. And if I die in my sleep or in some accident before, then at least I don't have to worry about anything anymore. Regardless, there's always tomorrow. Almost 2 weeks? I know he's already gone right. I just keep hoping he loves me enough to never give up on me. Like he always said, and comes back soon cause it will get better. I know it, my heart gives me hope. Things in life has gotten better for me due to several factors, so there's always some hope that it can happen again. Knowing that I have a lot of power to make things better. I spent a lot of years feeling helpless and like I was just the victim, to only learn that I have the power and control. I just have to keep discipline. Young people, the majority are intelligent, wise, compassionate and understanding, so I do have hope that they will take us to a better future. Right at this moment? Absolutely nothing. There's always good waves and bad waves. I just remind myself that I'm just going through a bad wave right now. The good is coming, it always does. Hang in there, op. At what age did you stop going to nightclubs? Around 30. Don't get me wrong, I still go to bars and whatnot, but once I hit my 30s, it became more about, let's go to the bar on Friday night after work, take advantage of the cheap drinks until 10, then get the out before the teeny boppers show up. And quat. As much fun as it is to hit up a club, look at women out of my league who poured themselves into their skirts, and pay too much for drinks. I'm wittier than I am good looking, so the club atmosphere doesn't really play to my strengths. Mid-30s. My friend group from the time I was a teenager has always been like 80% musicians, so I've spent an innumerable amount of nights drinking and hanging out in rock clubs. Been to a handful of dance clubs, but they were never my scene. Either way, burnout on that whole scene combined with the cost of a night out eventually just turned me off to it. These days I'd much rather have some friends over and use that money I'd be blowing on well drinks and an Uber to buy a couple bottles of good booze and not worry about getting home. I only went to nightclubs twice, once when I was 16 or 17 and again when I was 24. The worst experiences in my life: loud sound, people dancing so close to you, and at least where we went to, there were no alcohol-free drinks. In both occasions I didn't know that the girls we hang out with were interested in me because they were onto dancing and I don't really like to dance. They wanted to drink and I hate alcohol. So I learned from those experiences there are places for everyone, but not everyone will like to go to, enjoy being at some places. I remember once back in my 20s at a club and these smoking hot girls were making fun of a couple middle-aged guys at the bar who were obviously trolling for chicks. I made a mental note right then and there to never be that guy. But still, after my first divorce in my late 30s, up to that point in my life I always met women at concerts, parties, or clubs, so naturally thought I'd hit the clubs. And I did meet girls. I like older men ! And quad. Okay? I was at the top of the nightclub age range over a decade ago, so I haven't bothered with them since. I haven't fully stopped, but going a lot less, mainly because in my city a lot of the doormen/bouncers just put me off. If I'm going to rave, I don't want to be interrogated for 10 minutes at the door having some snarky head power trip on me. Past few times I've gone to a club I've straight up told the person at the door my street address because apparently they need to know whether I actually live here and quad. What's your best advice for not being awkward around attractive women? When I was a teenager my brother gave me the following advice when I was sweet on a girl and right nervous. No matter how beautiful and wonderful she is, at some point she has been sick. We're not talking mild fever sick. Locked to a toilet with violent diarrhea, sweat pouring down her face with her hair glued to her forehead as she pukes into a bucket while she hoses down the porcelain sick. Now, knowing that, is she not looking a little less intimidating? And quad. Works for women that are sweet on dudes as well. BTW, that also works to figure out if you really like them or you just think they're hot. If you can picture that imagery and still strongly want to go on a date, then you're probably actually in love. If you find that there is a nervousness that comes unbidden that you cannot seem to prevent, then my best advice is to embrace the suck. Think of it like building resistance to poison. Go and talk to those attractive girls for simple reasons, ask them directions to places nearby, if they know when the bus is coming, whatever. Eventually, you'll start to normalize approaching them. Even if you have to be an embarrassing mess along the way, you'll live. Pretty soon your fears about talking to attractive people will begin to fade, both because you'll realize that if your worst fears come to pass you'll still be fine, and also because you'll have plenty of experience talking to them like normal people. Just act like they already like you. Everyone likes you and you don't care if they don't, cause you know you're awesome. Fake it till you make it. Don't be shy. Acting like a awkward, insecure loser won't do you any favors, so act like you got confidence. Try to tell yourself these girls don't like you, and even if they did it wouldn't work out, and just try to approach them as a friend. Flirting is easiest when you don't really care if the other person likes you. If I had to guess, the guys who are most attractive to girls are taken guys because those are the only guys who talk to girls without trying to win their approval. A recent study shown that you're less likely to be awkward after you've been active. When you're high on testosterone and feeling confident in your abilities, you're less likely to fear rejection. Once I went to a rock show and after moshing it up, I felt no shame when I started talking with this girl that I would normally consider out of my league. Ultimately she said no, but I wasn't even torn up in the slightest because I was having such a great time and happy to just be talking to someone.